Today we're looking at ticket number 12738, and it's a faulty PlayStation 5 that doesn't display an output on a TV. Imagine that. The notes on the job state that the connector itself doesn't look damaged at all, so I will be checking over that. And also it's not been replaced before. Let's take a butcher's under the scope, shall we, and see what lies beneath. Okay, usually what I will say is from this bird's eye viewpoint, I should be able to see the pins. So I think this port may have actually taken a battering, because this is the plastic here, look, and I think this has been shunted back. Yeah, you can see there's like probably like a 1/2 mil gap here in the plastic. So this port has taken a little bit of a beating. Yeah, there we go. You can see from this angle. So I think this is actually customer damage. They didn't state anything about damage, I don't think. So what's most probably happened is they put the HDMI lead into the port, or it might not even have been the HDMI lead. It could have been a different lead. And it's pushed back all of the plastic. I don't know if that's going to affect the pads on the board, but we will take a look. Hopefully they're not damaged further. Let's get this port off of the board. We're looking okay, I would say, after taking that port off. Now what I'm doing is using my hot air at max temperature. I use a quick 861DW, and the temperature is at 500 degrees Celsius at 120 airflow speed. And I'm just gently going back and forth underneath the port now. And what I will do is come in with my solder sucker. A lot of people don't like to use solder suckers, but as long as you've kind of got a steady hand and you're heating from underneath the board, I usually find it the best way to clear out the ground holes. I haven't added any leaded solder. I used to, but I don't do that anymore. Only because if the board is hot enough and you take it from the heater that we have here over to the bench and then just run the gun underneath, you can liquefy the holes pretty quickly. I do also have the fan on currently because it's very hot in this office. And to me, it looks like it's just about to liquefy. There we go. Especially that bottom one. So a nice, steady, firm hand with the solder sucker. Coming over to the left now as well. If that's to liquefy. And this is the side that people worry most about. But again, if you just firmly plant the solder sucker down, then you'll be fine. Does take practice, quite a bit of practice. There we go. I'm not going to use isopropyl alcohol straight away, so I'm just going to come in with a cotton swab. Just get rid of what I can whilst it's hot, and then I'll come in with some isopropyl alcohol. Just give it a quick clean. A little bit of flux, just along the edge here. Board's still very nice and hot. Come in with our braid and soldering iron. And wick away the solder that we had on the pads. Just get rid of that flux with your cotton bud. And a nice clean. And we are now prepped, ready to put fresh solder on in all of the holes and use our drop method, which I actually struggled with on the JDT YouTube channel recently. Add our flux. And the issue that I had was I couldn't get the solder to wrap around the legs of the port. It was a bit of a pain. Put our soldering iron in the hole, followed by the solder, and just a lot of it. Nice big blobs. You have to be careful of our little cap. There we go. That's me doing it from a weird angle is why. Move that cap back, just like that. Now we get the actual PS5 HDMI port, and we're going to add a tiny bit of flux again. Grab our port, heat from underneath the board. This is all now leaded solder, so it will liquefy a lot quicker than what the unleaded was. And then we're simply just going to put the port in the holes and line it up with the pads on the board and go over the pins. So again, you'll see these balls liquefy any second now. There we go. Now we can come in with the port. And we're going to hold the heat and make sure that the solder wraps around, again, the legs of this HDMI port, which is what I couldn't do on the JDT video. And then we're just going to push down just to make sure. And then come off the heat. Keep it held down. Wait for it to solidify, which it has now. And quickly, we're going to turn the board around, and whilst we have all of the heat, we're going to apply some flux and individually go over the pins just to make sure but they are soldered to the board. Sometimes you need to add a little bit of solder onto the end of the tip, just to make sure we have a solid connection. There we go. And this is what happens if the board isn't hot enough and you still have flux on the board. So we warm the board up, then we come back in and get all that flux off. Now isopropyl alcohol. Give it the finishing touches that it needs, get rid of the flux. Looking good. And there we are. Check our work. There we go. Get a nice close-up shot. You can see every single pin has been soldered to the board. Very nice. We just sort out the back now. As you can see, we've got some bubbles. Again, I like to come in with some hot air. And you can't leave this on for too long. So I've had it on many a time in the past where you leave the hot air on for too long and the port just falls off the board. We don't want that. We just want to give it enough heat so that we can sort these little bubbles out. Add in flux where we need to. This one's being a bit stubborn. There we go. All right, and nice clean on the back. Again, might just need to add a little bit of heat to help with the clean-up process. There we go, looking good. A little bit of dry flux here. That's the back, and this is the front. And look at the ground holes where it's holding the port. You see how that solder's risen very nicely to hug the port. Nice. Now we'll give it a test. I have tested the PlayStation 5. It's already gone out to the customer. I forgot to record. So it's working. It's all good. And again, another happy customer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.